Hello students, welcome back. So we are into chapter 3 of your textbook and today we will try to actually finish it. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about the lab path. Okay. So next semester you have the design lab 2 actually, which has vibrations and control covered. So here the idea is to give you some background here so that when you are doing that lab, then you don't face any problem. So what we study here, it's very important to relate there. Okay, so the idea there is to see the actually see the vibrations and all whatever we have been talking about here. Okay, so whatever you have studied so far, you may probably see set a little bit differently. For example, here we have drawn like a spring and damper like this. Okay, and then we say, okay, there is a force here, F equal to F naught sine omega t, like that. Okay, now what if we don't have exactly like this one? Since we have to apply a force here, typically what you have is there is a frame here which will move up and down. So which is going to move up and down, and then you have a some set of something like this one. So this is KC, this is KCM, but this one, the setup, instead of giving a force here in your lab, you may have the point where it is fixed, that itself is actually moving up and down. Okay, so let us say this is moving up and down, and let's call it y equal to y naught sine omega t. Okay, with that it's moving. Now first of all, how to derive the equation for this one, like what will be the equation for this, where the base that is the frame to which this is attached, spring and damper attached, that is moving up and down following this y equal to y naught sine omega t. Okay, so if that is the case, then you should be also able to write the equation first, right? So equation. So now this one, as you said earlier, we still assume x will be, the downward is positive. In this case we can say y is positive downward. Okay, so y is positive downward. Here x is this is y, small y, let's write it. So x is also positive downward. Okay, now let's draw the free body diagram when there is a positive x. So if this mass has moved by amount x downward, and base of it, the upper portion of the spring has moved by y. So one end, this one has moved by x, the other end has moved by y. So this kind of situation, right? So one end by x, the other end by y. So what is the stretch? What is the stretch of that spring? A stretch will be simply x minus y. You can also check it, like let us say y equal to 0, then x minus 0 is x, so a stretch will be x. Yeah, so it makes sense. So if the stretch is, we write here, a stretch equal to x minus y. If the stretch is x minus y, then there will be a force. There will be a force opposite to x direction, that is opposite to the x minus y direction. So there will be a force k times let's draw a little below. So free body diagram, how it looks like? It looks like we have here k times x stretch. Since a stretch, hence this will try to pull it up. A spring will always resist the displacement. So displacement is downward. X minus y is the stretch. Since this is a stretch, this will be, a spring will be in tension actually. So since this is in tension, so force will be upward, will be k x minus y. Similarly, you can, same logic you can give for force due to this one. In that case, it will be c x dot minus y dot. That would be upward. And you the x double dot is downward. Right? So basically the here you apply Newton's second law of motion, and that's vertical is equal to mx double dot, and hence what do you get? Both are upward, so we are taking negative, so you get minus k x minus y minus c x dot minus y dot, yeah, is equal to mx double dot. Okay, and what do you get finally? You will get mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx equal to what? Equal to, we get ky plus cy dot. So this is the equation we get. Okay, now both the left hand side x we have to find out, we don't know, but the right side y is given, y equal to y naught sine omega t. So we can specifically write ky plus cy dot in that case, right? So since y equal to y naught sine omega t, hence y dot is equal to y naught omega cos omega t. Okay, so that means ky plus cy dot equal to will be ky dot sine y naught sine omega t plus y0 omega cos omega t is equal to I'm sorry, there will be k here, there will be c also here, so y naught c omega. Okay, so is equal to y naught, and we can write this as y naught, and then we will have here k, okay, then sine omega t plus c omega cos omega t. We can divide it by root under k square plus c square omega square, and multiply here by the same, right? So is equal to root k square plus c square omega square, yeah, and what do we get? We get y naught root k square plus c square omega square, and this we can write k over we can write like sine omega t plus, say, let's call it psi, okay, where tan psi will be equal to, so this will be sine psi, this will be cos psi, right? So this is sine, so this will be c omega divided by root c omega over k, sorry, over k. So what do we see? We see that this term becomes y naught multiplied by k square plus c square omega square times sine omega t psi. So basically what equation we get? We same equation we write here. We say mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx equal to y naught root k square plus c square omega square, then sine, okay, multiplied by sine omega t plus psi, where tan psi is given by c omega over k. So what do you see here? This is basically, you can simply also write y naught times k square plus c square plus omega square. You can write it as f naught basically. So f naught sine omega t plus psi. Okay, so what do we see? In this case, we have kx plus cx dot plus mx double dot equal to f naught sine omega t. Here, this case where the base itself is moving in a sinusoidal manner, and you get the similar expression here. So you do get a phase angle psi here, but you know the solution will just have different phase than this one. So you will have solution, the phase will be omega t plus psi minus phi. Since you know there is a phase lag here, so there will be minus phi there. That's it. Solution will be, instead of omega t plus psi, you have omega t plus psi minus phi, where tan phi we have derived already yesterday. So you see, it is actually the same thing. Although you are moving, you are giving the displacement which is sinusoidal, but it looks like it is as good as applying a force here, and that's why you will see in your lab, actually, we are doing this rather than this. There will be some cam follower system here which will give this sinusoidal input, sinusoidal displacement it will give, and it will work. Yeah. So remember that. Now, if these two systems are the same, so if we have a spring, damper, and this mass system, equivalent when this goes up and down, m, if both are the same system, in one case we have f equal to f naught sine omega t, here we have y equal to y naught sine omega t. If both are equivalent system, then we can also actually see one important thing, and that yesterday for vibration isolation we had this the big mass, some engine which was being supported, right, with some engine mount or vibration isolation device, and then it had some disturbance or unbalance. Because of that, there was a dynamic force, right? The dynamic force of F equal to F naught sine omega t. Yeah, and then we tried to find out what was the force transmitted to the ground. The force transmitted to the ground was Ft. Right? This is a force transmitted to ground, and this is F naught, which is the magnitude of the force basically. Yeah. So now this is one of way to represent one engine, and then you have engine mount, and then because of this spring and damper attached to that, through that the force goes to the ground. Now suppose you have got one instrument, right? The instrument, there are a lot of instruments in lab, so big equipment which requires almost a zero vibration, no disturbance at all. So for that also, what happens in case there is a vibration coming from the ground now? So here the idea was, machine was vibrating, and the idea was not to have the vibration traveling to the ground, here it has inverse problem, meaning that the ground may move up and down. The ground may be y equal to y naught sine omega t. And you want to protect the equipment now. Yeah. So there are quite a few instruments even at IIT Roper in a chemistry lab like XRD and all. They require very good vibration isolation system, and those which do imaging at nano level, so they really require no disturbance, so for that there is some vibration isolation device has to be there, on top of which the equipment will be installed. So then how it works? You have same spring and damper system like this, and this vibration here will be protected because of this spring and damper system. Equation will be the same as we have seen, since both are the same. Actually, so this displacement, the harmonic displacement results into force only. Similar analysis you can do here, and actually you will see that this y, the ground vibration, will be similar to the harmonical force, basically the harmonic force, and you do similar analysis and you get everything similar basically. So my point is, whatever material is good here will also be good here. So same material can be used because equation is actually the same one. Okay. So for this one we had the what we call transmissibility, right? So okay. So TR we wrote as T Ft, that is force transmitted to the ground, and then divided by F naught, which was the magnitude of the force, and that was actually equal to root under 1 plus 4 zeta square omega square over omega n square, and here you had 1 minus omega over omega n square, then square, plus you had the same for zeta square omega square over omega n square. Okay, you will get the similar kind of transfer function here. Okay, so so basically if you plot this one for this, if you plot like this one, so how will it look like? Okay, so first thing we can notice here that the numerator and denominator both will be equal when this is equal to 1. Okay, then both will be same. Yeah, so finding out the condition for TR, condition for TR equal to 1. So what will be the condition? When 1 minus omega square over omega n square equal to 1, or we get 1 minus omega square over omega n square is equal to plus minus 1, basically, right? So that really means we get omega over omega n square, okay, is equal to, either we get equal to 1 minus 1 0, or we get 2, or we get omega over omega n equal to either 0 or 2. So what we know from here is when omega over omega n equal to 0 and root 2, we get exactly transmissibility equal to 1. So this equation we already had, but today we will just also plot it so that you get more insight regarding this transmissibility. Okay, So let's plug a transmissibility that we derived yesterday, so which is given here. So transmissibility, right? So that is the force transmitted to the ground divided by the applied force. Okay, so both are magnitude. Okay, so let us say we want to plot in terms of omega over omega n, and here is Ti. So this gives some idea basically. Yeah. So from there we can also find out some parameters for good vibration isolation device or the engine mount. Okay. So at omega over omega n equal to 0, we get Tr equal to 1. So we start from 1. So this is, let us say is 1. Yeah. Okay. Now what happens? We have let us say this is 1, and it says this is 0, and then it says when this is root 2, then also we have 1. So we have like this one. Yeah. Okay, so let's put a little bit away. Okay. So let's say root 2 is here, like this. Okay. Okay, so when omega equal to omega n, when we have somewhere here, right? When we have 1, then what happens? When omega over omega n equal to 1, we get this 0, and then you get 1 plus this divided by this one. So here, depending on zeta, you will get the value. If zeta equal to 0, you get the high, very, very high transmissibility. If zeta is a small, depending on the zeta. So here, if zeta is very, very small, then you get very, very high. Yeah, and then it will come down, go like this. Yeah. When zeta is very small, say zeta equal to 0.01, like that. Okay. Now, all curves will pass through this point, because regardless of what zeta is, when omega over omega n equal to root 2, you have transmissibility equal to 1, right? So that's why it will pass through this point. If you increase zeta, then what happens? You can plot yourself. This will go here, and it will occur maximum here, then it will come down, and then it will go something like this. Okay. So let us say this is this may be equal zeta equal to say 0.2. Okay. Then there will be more. Again, this will pass through something like this. Let's call zeta equal to 0.5, and so on. Okay. If what you see here, as you increase zeta, then the transmissibility at omega equal to omega n becomes smaller and smaller. However, when you go beyond this ratio of omega over omega n equal to root 2, you get less advantage when you have zeta more, basically. Right? So this is what it shows. So here, zeta gives you a lot of advantage when you are operating between omega equal to 0 to omega equal to root 2 of omega n. Then having a damper is going to be of a lot of advantage. However, when you go beyond this one, actually having a simple spring mass system without zeta, it will gives you better vibration isolation. That's what it means actually. Right? So, although we derived yesterday, however I missed drawing this one so that we can also relate. So that's what we did. But in any case, this will also be applicable, similar kind of the transmissibility, or rather in that case you will get the output displacement divided by input displacement, which will also look like this one. Here right now it is output force divided by input force, where output force means the force which is being transmitted to the ground, divided by input force, that means the amplitude of the force that you are giving. In the other case, where you have one equipment which is protected from vibration, and in that case also what is input is the vibration displacement, base displacement. So, and the output is the displacement of the mass basically. So that displacement of the mass, the amplitude we are talking about, divided by the amplitude of the base displacement, will also look like something like this one. Okay. Also note that in any case, it's a good idea to derive the if there's a rotor, for example, so it's better to operate somewhere beyond this omega divided by omega n equal to √2, beyond this point, so that your transmissibility is less than 1, because between these 2 points, omega, the ratio of omega divided by omega n, when it is between 0 and √2, you know that transmissibility is always more than 1. Okay, so if you have a choice to operate omega, like the angular speed of the rotating mass, unbalanced mass, then you should drive it here. Or if given omega is given somewhere, so then you have to derive, then you have to use the stiffener, means a spring, and the damper, such a way you get this kind of this kind of plot for transmissibility, so that you are operating here, yeah, and hence your transmissibility is less than 1. Yeah, you try to be as low as possible, so you go as further from this point, your transmissibility will be lower and lower. Okay, now let's find out what is the work done by damper per cycle. Okay, so we have already seen there is some energy related to the spring mass damper system, and for mass, for example, mass has the kinetic energy, spring have potential energy, that is half kx square, and damping, for example, Coulomb damping, there is some work done there, right? So there is a because of that the energy is lost, with time. Yeah. So in this case also, when there is a viscous damper, in that case also there is a work done per unit cycle, and that makes basically the energy being absorbed by the damper system, right? So the energy, we start with the system, the mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx equal to f naught sine omega t. Energy dissipated by, what we want to find out, the energy dissipation per unit cycle. So that we want to have. And here we know that only component which dissipates energy is the damper, and the whole dissipation comes from there. Yeah, so then how to find out? So let us say for that we have to find out the what is the work done per unit cycle, and then that work done itself is actually dissipated. Yeah, the work done equal to that dissipated energy. So we have to first find out the force, which force, damping force. Yeah. So we write damping force. So damping force Fd is equal to what? Cx dot, we know. Yeah. So if this is like forced vibration, so if F equal to F naught sine omega t, we know that x equal to x naught then sine omega t minus phi. So that we know. Okay. So Cx dot, so x dot becomes equal to, or just write Fd equal to Cx dot will be equal to x naught, then C omega, then cos omega t minus phi. Yeah. Okay. This is because x dot is equal to x naught omega and cos omega t, right? Cos omega t minus phi. Okay, so differentiate this, we get this, then multiplied by c, we get this force. Okay, now we have to find out the force per unit cycle. Okay, so how will you find out? First we have to find out the rate of work done. Right? So we say rate of work done equal to will be Fd times velocity, right? Fd times x dot, right? This is a rate of work done, and hence work done per unit cycle will be equal to, let's call it Wd, will be equal to one cycle and then Fd times x dot then dt. Okay, so this will be the total. So this is the rate of work done, means work done per unit time, okay, multiplied by dt, a small time, and then integrated over the one full cycle. Yeah, so this is the work done per unit cycle, which is equal to, will be 0 to big T, where big T is a time period, which will be equal to 2 pi over omega. Okay, so this will be equal to Fd x dot dt. Okay, so far we have that. Now next, Wd will be given by, we can write now 0 to 2 pi over omega, and then Fd is here, so we have x naught c omega cos omega t minus phi is 1, we get the Fd, and then x dot is multiplied by, you have x naught omega cos omega t minus phi then dt. Okay, equal to, now x naught here, cos here, omega here. So what we get is basically c x naught square omega square and then cos square omega t minus phi then dt. So we get that. Okay, now for us this is from 0 to 2 pi over omega. Now this is integration with respect to t, so these terms are constant, so we bring this outside, cx square omega square, and then 0 2 pi over omega, then you have cos square omega t minus phi dt. Okay, then we have to integrate this. So equal to c x naught square omega square, and this we can write it as like this 0.2 pi over omega, and let us say this is 2 cos square omega t minus 5 divided by 2. So that makes it 1 plus cos 2 omega t minus 2 phi, yeah, so divided by 2 dt, yeah. Okay, so we get from here we get half outside, so half c x naught square omega square, and then we get we integrate here, so we get t plus and integration of cos, so we get here sine, then 2 omega t minus 2 phi divided by 2 omega, yeah, and then we have integrated from 0 to 2 pi omega, right? So we have to, this is integrated, so this will be 0 to 2 pi over omega here. Okay, so equal to half c x naught square omega square, and then we get from here 2 pi over omega plus, and then if we put the, so what we get 2 pi, so in this case the value will be, so value will be what? Value will be sine, and then put here, so omega, then that will be 4 pi basically, yeah, so 4 pi minus 2 phi minus sine, then minus 2 phi, yeah. So basically this value and this value will be the same because you have 4 pi here, so what you get, this total value becomes 0 and you have just this one, and what do you get? 2 cancels out, okay, so 2 and 2 cancels out, omega 1 omega cancels out, so we get c x naught square omega pi, yeah, so 2 omega, so 2 pi, you have pi from here, just 1 omega here, and then c x naught square, or wd is equal to pi c omega x naught square. Okay, so this is the energy dissipation, this is the work done basically, and this is the dissipated energy. So energy dissipation per unit cycle, this is the energy dissipated per unit cycle, yeah, so this is the dissipated energy per unit cycle. Okay, so this is how you can calculate. Okay, in your lab next semester you also have one experiment which is whirling of rotating shaft. So whirling of rotating shaft. Okay, so basically there is a shaft. First we have to also relate with the spring mass damper. Basically finally the vibration comes from that. So here let us say we can assume that there is a shaft and this is the original axis, and here the simply supported both the sides, okay, and in the middle let us say there is a rotor, okay. So this is a beam, basically. This is a beam. Yeah, beam. Basically, this is the shaft, basically. But it has in middle, there is some rotor. Some mass is hanging from here, M, let us say. And just in middle, so you have length from here to here is L. In between, for let us say here, L over 2, you have this one. Then what happens? If it is a static, it is not rotating right now. It is just like that. Okay, so if you give little bit of push here, pull here, and what we will see, it will start vibrating up and down here. So because this is equivalent to a spring and mass system, assuming there is no damping. But the material, the beam material can also have little bit of damping. In that case, you can also consider the damper there. But assume there is no damping here. So this is K and this is M, this is equivalent of that. Now what will be the K? What will be the K in this case? So then you have to go back to the solid mechanics course that you had, and if this is the beam like this, and in the middle you have a force P, for example, and then because of that there was a deflection, beam deflection of delta, right? Say delta. Then how is delta? How can you delta? You can find out. Okay. If you study, you will find out delta will be equal to P LQ over 48 EI. Okay. So how to find out K? So this you know, if you apply force and there will be a deflection delta, and which is given by this one, then K will be equal to P over delta, means force per unit deflection, basically. This is what the K is. So K equal to P over delta, and what you get is 48 EI over LQ. Okay. What we have assumed here is the simply supported here, right? So hinge here, this kind of. For other kind of support, for example, if the support is like this, you can also assume both the sides, since this is a shaft, there will be bearing both the sides. Bearing should be such a way that the slope here will be 0 on both the sides. In that case, both the ends will be fixed. And when you have this force applied in the middle like this one, and you have same delta like this, yeah, so delta like here. So in this case, delta will be given by, delta will be less here, so PLQ over 192 EI. Okay. And hence, in this case, K will be equal to P over delta equal to 192 EI over LQ, where you know already what is E, what is I. You have studied already in ME 201 solid mechanics course. Okay, so depending on the end conditions, the K will be different. Okay, so here, if you give little bit of disturbance here, it will start vibrating. In this case also, if there is a mass here, it will start vibrating. Okay, you are assuming the beam or the shaft to have no mass, and all the mass coming from the rotor which is attached here, the mass which is attached here. In fact, even if this mass is not there, if you give some disturbance, it will start vibrating. This is because the beam or the shaft has mass, basically. Yeah, so because of that, it will do its own stiffness and its own mass. Because of that also, the vibration of a string or the beam happens because of that. But here, in this analysis, we will assume that there is no mass of the shaft. Only this comes from the rotor which is attached. Okay. Yeah. So let's analyze further. So let us say this is the original axis, okay, and then the beam bends like this one, okay, they like this, and there is a rotor here like this, okay. So this is the beam or the shaft which goes like this one here, okay, like this, and then goes like this, okay. And here the end condition. The end condition could be either fixed the way we did, or simply supported, depending on what the conditions are. So this is the rotor here, okay. And now there is we will assume that there is some imbalance, meaning that there is some unbalanced mass here, or you can say the center of mass of this rotor is here, okay. So the center of mass is here, okay. So in that case, what we had, so we assume the mass equal m, which is the same. Mass is m and center of mass is here for the rotor, okay. So we have some parameter here. So this is the original axis, and distance from here, let us say it's r, okay. This r from the original axis, and then here, from here to here, we have value equal to e, yeah. So eccentricity, okay. So we can also have drawn here. So we have e somewhere here, yeah, like this, okay. And this is the point O, we can say point O here, so point O, and this is where the mass is, and distance from here to here is E. Okay. And let's say this point is A, for axis A. This is O point, as O is here, the point mass is here, this is E, okay. So let us say this is here, this is A. So same thing, I'm now looking from the top, basically it's a top view of that. So this is a point, from here to A to O, his distance is R. So from here to here is R, yeah, okay. Now what we have to find out, we have to find the equation of motion. If you know the equation of motion, so we have this R here, yeah. So depending on the motion, there are two kinds of things here. One is omega, okay, which is omega related to the disk. So this is omega, yeah. So the disk is rotating with omega, yeah. So omega equal to the rotor's angular velocity. Yeah. Okay. Remember that there are two kind of rotation here. One is rotation of R. Okay, this R itself is rotating, right? Like this one. Yeah. Second is rotation of this rotor itself. Rotor itself is rotating like this. Okay. So this is the omega is the absolute rotation with respect to some fixed line. So basically, what I mean to say, if let us say this is the horizontal line, let us say this, everything measured with respect to this one. So from here to here will be omega t, okay, and the theta So this is some line of reference, maybe horizontal line, and parallel to this also we have like this. Yeah? So you can say the reference line. Okay. So with respect to that we are measuring. So this is theta. So this is r, and this rotation here, yeah, is theta rotation. Yeah. So angle with which r is making with a reference line is theta, and this is this disc is rotating with omega t. So omega t is the angle that this line 0 to this mass is making with the reference line, reference direction, or say direction, is omega t. Okay. So we have to distinguish between the two. Since we have to find out the equation of motion, so let's say the point where this mass m is P point. Okay? So this is the point P. Okay? Point P. Now, as you studied in the theory of machines, yeah. So AP, vector AP will be equal to vector AO plus OP. Yeah. Okay. So basically, finally we have to find out the motion of this point P, and we have to derive, in fact, the equation of motion in terms of that. In fact, force balance in terms of that. So how do you do that? So AP, A to P. I mean, this is A is the, for us this is a fixed point. With respect to that, we are deriving the equation. So from with respect to this one, the point P is given by AP equal to AO plus OP. Now, AO is nothing but R. Yeah? And what is OP plus OP? R plus OP. Okay. Now, here you can also write in terms of the angles. Yeah. So angle comes into the picture. So if, let us say when we say the velocity part, right? So if you want to find out the velocity, right, to AP dot, okay, then we have to get again all these things you already had in the d over dt, and then you have this R plus OP. Note here that this R vector, here to here, A to O, this is R. R is a scalar. Distance is R, and it is also rotating by what? Theta dot. So the theta dot is the velocity, the angular velocity of rotation of R. Yeah. So that means what? That tells us if d over dt R will be equal to, we can write in two terms. One in terms of two perpendicular directions, you can write, and one will be R dot, let us say in direction I in that case will be towards the along R basically. Okay, so here, So here we can write like I. Let us say we call it I. This is I direction. Yeah. So this is I direction, and then perpendicular to that also there will be a velocity, and that will be plus omega times r, right? So theta dot, basically in this case, theta dot r times j, where j is perpendicular to that. So the two directions, right? So here it's the r dot, which is will be along this one, plus theta dot r, which will be perpendicular to that. Yeah. Remember, we can also derive this one as this. So d over dt and ri. So we know that I is this direction and r is in that direction only. So actually d over dt ri, where r is a magnitude and direction is I. And this is equal to what we get. We get dr over dti plus r di over dt. And hence this is r dot I, and then plus you have r times di over dt. And this I am saying this is equal to nothing but this is theta dot j. Okay, which one? Di, where di over dt equal to theta dot z. And how you can find out? This you have already done. Yeah, so in theory of machinery must have been done. But still, let us, here I is actually moving with a velocity, say theta dot is a velocity, right, in this case. So I itself is rotating with this AO. The I is along AO, and this is rotating with theta dot. So let us say you have I here at t equal to some value, and after that it moves to here. I has I1 is here and I2 is here. Yeah. So then di over dt will be equal to I2 minus I1 over delta t, right? And limit delta t tends to 0, right? That's what we will do. So but I2 minus I1 is nothing but this, right? Because I1 plus this delta I, yeah, this is the delta I. I1 plus delta I equal to I2, and hence I2 minus I1 equal to delta I. So delta I over delta t. Again here you say limit delta t tends to 0. Yeah, but delta I here is what? That will be equal to, here this will be theta dot times delta t. That's what it will be, right? So angle that it makes, and multiplied by 1. This is from here to here is 1 only, right? So it's 1. So delta I is equal to theta dot delta t over delta t, right? Delta t. And which direction it is? The direction is perpendicular to, this is this one is perpendicular to I, basically, right? So I is a vector, I2 is a vector, I1 is a vector. Yeah, so delta I is a vector. Delta I vector is nothing but this one is in j direction, right? Delta I is in j direction. Hence you get theta dot j, right? So di over dt equal to theta dot j, and di over dt theta dot j, and that's what we are using it, and hence we are getting, right? Same thing we can actually use further for further differentiating this one. Okay, so what do we get from here? If we differentiate this further, this one, so what we get? So d double differentiation d square will be equal to d over dt and r dot I plus r theta dot j, right? So that's what we will get. And equal to what we get here, we get first r double dot plus r dot di over dt will be 1, and then what we get, then we get plus this value, yeah. So d over dt r theta dot j plus, so let's r theta dot j plus, so this becomes r dot basically, yeah. And then we get the second one, so this will be r theta double dot j, and then we get another one plus r theta dot and d j over dt, yeah. Let us see if it's correct. So first applied here, and then so this will be we also should have I here, so r double dot I plus r dot di over dt plus d over dt r times theta dot j plus r theta double dot j plus r theta dot dg over dt. Okay, correct. We should also write here d square dt square, here r, yeah. Okay. So let us simplify it further. So what we get, we'll write it here, final values of that. So d square r vector dt square, we will get equal to, and we have r double dot I, and here we have plus r dot theta dot j, theta dot j equal to di over dt plus this is r dot theta dot j again, okay, plus we have r double theta theta double dot j, okay, and then plus we have r theta dot and here dj dt, so j will be 90 degree from here, so dj over dt will be this direction, will be in minus I direction. So what you get is not plus but minus here, so you get minus, and then what, r theta dot square, and we get I here. So final value, all items together, what you get, this and this together, so you get r double dot minus r theta dot square I, okay, then you get plus 2 r theta r dot theta dot j, and plus also, so this is r dot theta dot and r dot theta dot, so both are j, and here also plus r theta double dot as well. See, you get this value, final value. Okay, so far we have in this equation ap dot from here to here equal to d over dt r vector plus op vector. So for this part we already have. So what I mean to say is, for ap double dot we have d square dt square, and we have r plus op. So this term we already have here, d square dt square of r we have here. Now next is we have to find out d square dt square r plus d square dt square op. Yeah. So far what we found out, we found out this one. Okay, so we found out this one. Now we have to find out this one. Okay, so this one we have found out so far, this one we will find out. Okay, and then we will do the more analysis the next time.